Paul Klampers are one of those bike components that's just so divisive. Some people swear by them, some people swear at them, and at $230 per caliper, they're definitely no small investment. I reviewed a pair of clampers about a year ago, and since then I've used it on my Crest Bambora as well as the Ritchie Ascent and also the Bear Claw Thunderhawk. So what are my thoughts on the Paul Klamper a year later? In this video, I'm going to talk about how they have performed for me and then address the big expensive elephant in the room, the price. Over the last year, I've used the clampers primarily in gravel riding, so that means a mix of paved roads, mostly unpaved dirt roads, some light single track, mostly green trails, so nothing super technical, and on bikes with drop bars. I feel like this is very important to point out because my needs are going to be completely different from someone that is going to be doing lots of downhill mountain biking. I'll also add that I'm a pretty cautious descender. I don't try to cook the corners, nor do I push things to the far extreme. In other words, just riding a bike. In my experience with my kind of riding, they provided more than enough stopping power. So this is mostly negotiating dirt roads, sometimes with grades in the upper teens. I've yet to hit a moment where I felt like I needed more stopping power. Granted, most of my riding with the brake has been with the bike unloaded. That might have been a different experience if I'd been riding with bikes that were completely loaded for touring. But generally speaking, more than enough power. I'll also note that I found that I got enough power in the tops of the drops. For some brakes, it's been my experience that I need to get into the hooks of the drops to get maximum braking power. But for me, I feel like that's not necessary with the clampers. Yes, you get more brake when you're down here, but I get most of the braking power I need when on the tops. All right, I can already hear you typing away. Braking power isn't everything. It's all about the modulation. The clampers do take a little bit more practice to feather the brakes. It can be a little easy to grab too much brake when you're just getting used to them. I do think modulation is an area where the clampers are kind of outperformed by other brakes. That said, over time, with some practice, I have managed some steep, loose descents without locking up the wheels unnecessarily. Again, I want to stress that in most riding circumstances where you're not descending scree, the clampers provide enough modulation. Next big question is adjusting them. How often do you have to adjust them? How difficult is it? On either side of the caliper body are two big knobs, and once every 2 to 3 weeks, I'll give either the outer knob or the inner knob a quarter turn, and that's been about it. Technically, it is more maintenance than zero maintenance, but I think the sheer amount of maintenance has been overstated. It's seriously like a quarter turn every week and a half or 2 weeks. One other thing I really appreciate about the clampers is the changeable lever arms. So if you're swapping parts on your bike, changing it from a drop bar bike to a flat bar bike, you don't need to buy a brand new pair of calipers. You can simply change the lever arm so you can switch between mountain to road and Shimano and Campy. Do people still ride Campy? And to my knowledge, you can't do that with any other brake out there on the market. So it's not all sunshine and roses. What are the cons? The first one I think is aesthetics for some people. The sort of agricultural, boxy, but good look isn't to everyone's taste. I think it's kind of charming and I actually kind of like it. Probably more serious is the caliper body tends to be on the wide side. So I have found that depending on the disc rotors, some of those may rub on the caliper body. So not every disc rotor will work with these calipers. I've also found that the placement of the actuating lever arm doesn't play well with all frames. So for example, my Bear Claw here, it's internally routed, it's optimized for hydraulic disc brakes, and that puts the cable exit on the left side of the chainstay. The clampers have the arms on the far right, so there's no way I could route the cable to make that turn without it getting all janky. To get around this, I actually just routed the cable externally with some zip ties. So depending on your frame, especially if it's internally routed, how the cable exits will determine how it plays well with the clampers. So lastly, a big con, and no small one at that, is the expense. They are expensive bike components. There's no denying that. I think when we see a high price tag on some bike components, We believe that the performance should track linearly. And that's a reasonable expectation to some extent, but there are other factors in play as well. A big one being, where is the component made? What is the price of labor? What are they paying their employees? There is a reason why a vast majority of bike components which are affordable or inexpensive are not made in the US. So before you scoff at the price, keep that in mind. The clampers, compared to some cheaper Tektro mechanical brakes, these are hands down way better in terms of stopping power, with the added value that these are made to last a lifetime and will probably outlast other components on your bike easily. When compared to other brakes, I prefer these to Spires, especially when paired with Shimano road brake calipers. There's something about Spires and Shimano levers, for me, they always feel kind of spongy. Haven't had a problem with the clampers. I also think they perform as well without the reliability concerns of hybrid hydraulic mechanical brakes. So things like the Yokozunas or the High Road. You get as much braking power, but never have to worry about these non-serviceable hydraulic pistons and stuff. So a year later, what do I think? So for me, they've given me all the braking performance that I would want with reasonable modulation and the ease of mind of having something that is absolutely bomb-proof. I like them so much, in fact, that that's why they're on my Bear Claw, and yes, I paid 100% full retail for them on this bike. I like them that much. If you can't afford them, don't lose sleep over your decision. Many brakes out there do a great job, but if I could afford to put the clampers on every single bike I owned, I would probably do it. That's what I think. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Are you guys fans of the Paul Klamper? Let me know. And as always, keep the supple side down.